Okay. An unsurpassed, penetrating, and perfect Dharma is rarely met with, even in 100,000 million kappas. Having it to see and listen to remember and accept, I vow to taste the truth of the Tathagata's words. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Um, I thought I might talk about uh, the since it's Easter weekend. I thought I might talk about the Christian holiday of Easter, and is tomorrow, and so it's the resurrection story, and Jesus was crucified, he laid in state, and then he resurrected. And I thought that talk that from a Zen perspective. How can we apply that lesson and relate to it? And they're similar. They're similar. Jesus and as Bruce calls him, Mr. Gautama, uh, is very similar. And when we look at it from a Zen point of view, we look at it as a awakened point of view, a eyes wide open. Um, and so we can have our own kind of version of Easter, which is based on uh, what we celebrate in December, Rohatsu, which is the Buddha's enlightenment. And the two stories are similar in that both were tested and tempted in different ways. And for example, Jesus um, went out into the wilderness and spent 40 days there. And while he was out there, Satan showed up and started pouring doubt and temptation in his ear. And very similarly, about 500 years before that, the Buddha vowed to awaken as he sat under the Bodhi tree, and Mara did something very similar, um, raising doubt and tempting him. And we get that ourselves, I think, every day. We turn on any kind of media, and it's always trying to say, well, what you have isn't good enough. Maybe you ought to buy this. And, you need the best shampoo or the best toothpaste or the best car or, get a new home. And so there's this idea, and I think we're all tempted with that stuff because we start to doubt our lives. And I think one of the best ways that we um, can wake up from that, I don't want to say combat because that's not a good word. I think it's just awaken to what's happening. Is just as Jesus and the Buddha found was kindness and compassion in their journeys. And so if we treat that in that way and we're mindful of what's happening, we wake up to the fact of what's going on without attaching any kind of emotion to it. Because we can get mad about it, or we can have different ways of looking at things. But if we just say, okay, that's just commercialism, or, that's just somebody else's idea, but it doesn't have to be my idea. So, Easter is a religious holiday. It has great significance for the Christians. On this day, they celebrate the resurrection. From a Zen point of view, the rising up from the dead can be very symbolic. The rising up from the dead, from a Zen point of view, that means that we rise from the dead every moment. When every day is a new day, we get a mulligan, we get a do-over, and that's so wonderful for it. Instead of being just a Groundhog Day, just the same thing over and over. Get up, brush my teeth, comb my hair, have a cup of coffee, get in the car, drive to work, do my work, drive home, pet the dog, whatever it might be. It might feel like a Groundhog Day, but when you really wake up to that, you see it with new eyes. And I think that's what the resurrection is that there was a change from the person who was crucified to the person who woke up and rose from the dead. There was an exchange in that. There was an enlightenment. In the Heart Sutra that we chant, we just chant it. And in each service, this is the very essence of it. It's without ego. Egolessness equals emptiness. And paradoxically, within that vast emptiness is great fullness, mindfulness. I thought that was good. This mindfulness, and it's not that your mind is full of thoughts. That's what we're trying to relieve. But your mind is able to take in and respond appropriately to the world as it is. And that has to be brought to each and every moment of your waking day. When you live a Zen life, otherwise it's just theory. It's just Zen theory. We can talk a good game and then we go back to, walking down the street looking at our phone. And so there's an interesting Zen story that illustrates this point of mindfulness. And there was a monk, and he was washing his hands, and he was in the temple. And his teacher, he was really quite surprised. He found me. He goes, "What are you doing?" He's washing. You've been in here the temple for over an hour, and now you're washing your hands. Why are you washing your hands? And today we take off our shoes for different reasons. Oh, let's see. Excuse me. I'm getting ahead of myself. Telling a different story. And the monk, he immediately replied, "Oh no, Sensei, I'm not washing my hands. I'm washing the soap." Washing your hands after removing your shoes and bowing before the altar, and for many priests that practice, it's common etiquette. You go to Japan, there's a lot of different things. If you go to a temple, sometimes they'll have a toothbrush and a place to wash your hands, so you wash your mouth and wash your hands before you enter the temple. And one of the reasons is kind of symbolic. And we come to the temple and wash our hands, entering a sanctuary and leaving the outside world behind us. And that's a very beautiful thought. And certainly there's nothing wrong with this. But really we're washing our hands because means that we clean them. We're keeping the temple clean. Mindfulness. So how many times do we find ourselves running around all day shopping and going here and going there and visiting people? And I do this all the time. Driving the car, picking up the groceries, and ending up at home and feeling hungry and going into the fridge and grabbing an apple. And I put it in my mouth, and I just put in what I did all day right into my mouth. So coming into the home, there's a practicality to it. Coming in your home and going washing your hands, there's something that makes sense about that. Especially this day and age with, COVID and all these different things going on. So it's not OCD, I think. It's more being mindful of what's going on with you. And, nobody's so hungry that they can't stop and wash their hands. And we have little wipes in the car. We come out of the store or something and we wipe our hands down just because we're trying to take care of ourselves. Years ago, let's see, it's been almost 14 years now. We remodeled our house, and we pulled up most of the carpet and put down some really nice bamboo wooden floors, and they're very nice. And so we got in the habit of taking off our shoes because we didn't want to scratch up the floor. We didn't want to make it not as nice. And so today we still take off our shoes, but I think for a different reason, because we've had 14 years of little furry toes, little cats and dogs, and running across that floor, and it's got little scratches, and the floor's still nice, but still got little scratches in it. But we still take off our shoes because we find our home as kind of a sacred space, kind of like a temple, and we want to keep it clean. And that adds to the being mindful of where we're at and where we're standing. So in the same way that the teacher questioned the monk for his supposed mindfulness, what? You've been in the temple for an hour and you're now washing your hands? The monk replied, no, Roshi, I am washing the soap. And that all of a sudden you realize, oh, how many times you've gone into a place and the soap's all gooky and somebody's left dirt all over it, and you have to wash the soap. And I think that's interesting because the soap is now dirtier than your hands. So that's what the story is about, the mindfulness of that monk and how he was experiencing the world with open eyes. One of my other stories that I really like, that I always remember, is there was a monk, and he was a great lecturer, and he liked to go around. He told a good story, and he was well known. And he thought he'd go visit this teacher, and it had been raining, just like today. And so in Japan, they have clogs when they walk, especially in rain, because you're up above. And he was carrying his umbrella, had his umbrella. And as he came to the temple door, he put his clogs off and put his umbrella at the doorway and entered. And the abbot of the monastery said, oh, sure is raining hard today. Upon entering the temple, the old abbot looked at him and he said, it's really bad weather today. I assume you brought your umbrella. And the monk said, of course. And then he said, by the way, which side of the shoes did you leave your umbrella? And the monk, who was so full of himself, realized he didn't know what to say. He was so full of himself and what he was going to do and what he was going to talk about that he didn't even know where he left his shoes and how he left his umbrella. And so it's not nitpicking, I don't think. It's the idea of this training, this discipline. It's all those little tiny minute things that we do every day, and being mindful of that and realizing what we're doing instead of just doing it. And we do that until we just, it's a concept of we do it until we don't have to think about it, but we know what we did. And that's that little awakening. That's that everyday kind of enlightenment that we get when we wake up to what's really going on. And so there's a saying, get your head out of the clouds. And that's what that means, is that come back on the earth, come back down here, and where you're standing. And too many people are concerned about what's out there, what's going on out there. The internet is especially that, because we can travel to the other side of the world and know exactly what's happening at that moment. But what is happening here? And what is happening with us, where we're standing. And so I think that there's never a present if you're always in the past or if you're always in the future. You have to be right here. If you're not, you're dead. That's just what it means, is that you're not present in this moment, so you're asleep. And so that's the idea of Zen. That's Zen logic. That's the kind of the thinking. So this Easter, as I was thinking about this, we can make this day and tomorrow and the next day, our Easter, as far as our resurrection, our awakening. If not, it's just a philosophy, and it's just something to talk about. And instead of, it's a practice. And it isn't so much what we say, it's more of what we do. And being aware of that. So with our practice, with our Zazen, we can awaken to each and every moment. We can resurrect from that dead person that was there just a moment ago, somewhere else, and the astral plane. And so we can wake up to that and make this a joyous, glorious day because we're present in it. And that's kind of what I wanted to talk about. I think as I start giving more of these talks, I'd like to. I'm always open to suggestions on what people would like to hear about, but I also would like to think about what's going on right now and how can we apply that to our training, to our practice. And I think as we fall into the holidays, and whether you practice celebrating Easter or not, I know we're going to have probably a barbecue or something. But think about how we can how do our lives relate to the lives of the people who are celebrating that, and how can we don't necessarily have to celebrate it, but how can we use our practice to relate to the world. And I think that's the key thing to it. So with that, thank you very much. And I'm welcome any questions, comments, uh, what your thoughts are on this. Thank you.
So if I could correct me if I'm wrong, so you're suggesting that um, as a way of adapting the whole Easter tradition to our practice is to just sort of remember that every day when we bring ourselves to the present moment, we sort of resurrect ourselves. Is that what we're?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's exactly what I started thinking because, you know, it's so easy to fall back, at least for me. It's so easy just to wake up and because I have a routine and I wake up, I wash my face, I brush my teeth, I comb my hair, I put on my clothes, uh, I put on my glasses, I walk down the hall, I start the coffee, I open cans of food to feed all the furry people, and then I sit down. And it's so easy to fall into that idea of just doing it and not really thinking about it. But if I stop, I used to put little post-it notes, in the bathroom. There was a Gotha. I think I shared the Gotha that I saw in San Francisco Zen Center, and about washing and the idea that we do those Gathas and the idea of why we chant the sutras is the idea is a reminder of why we're here and what this training is about. So to be able to wake up to that moment, to really just enjoy the freshness of the water on my face and on my hair and the the mindfulness of what I'm doing in my mouth when I brush my teeth, and it doesn't really take any longer. It's just being present for it and just thinking about what we're doing. We don't have to chew a grape 100 times or any, things like that. That's a fine practice, but really all we have to do is say, "This is a great grape," and I'm going to enjoy it for whatever how long it lasts. And so those things, and yeah, it's that the idea of resurrection, the idea of coming from a sleep state, as the Buddha did. He practiced for several years, different practices and thing, and then he said, "This is I know there's something different," and so he sat, and that's what happened, is that he woke up. He woke up to that present moment, and the story goes that he touched the earth, and that he was the realization that he was one with everything, and it wasn't something where the angel sings and things like that. Maybe it was for him, because he could hear all the birds, he could hear the bubbling brook, he heard the rustling of the leaves, and just realizing that he was here at this moment, totally 100% present. Now, whether we can achieve that, I don't know. I've achieved, little that realization of where I am and what I'm doing, and the lights got a little brighter and the sound a little clearer, but then it goes away. But I think that's what it is. It's all those little enlightenments, all those little resurrections from that moment of kind of where we're dead and we're just zoned out. Because sometimes that's fine. Sometimes it's just we just want to kind of let go of the world. But when we let go of that world, we don't have to be zoned out in some way, or how some people do it with drugs or whatever it might be. Is that just be present in that moment and just don't attach anything to it. So yeah, you explained it perfectly.
Hmm.
Anyway, thank you.
Hmm.
Um, Kevin,
Yes.
okay, so not so much about this, but when you mentioned other topics that might be worth considering.
Yes.
I don't know why this one popped up, or maybe I do know, but loneliness. I haven't gone out of my way to do any research on Buddhist texts and talks, etc., about loneliness and whatever that means to the person saying it. Because it probably means different things at certain times in one's life, you know,
Yes.
especially, let's say, when you're a teenager or midlife or, in your senior years, it can mean different things.
Hmm.
But I'm just tossing that out there for something for you to chew on.
I like that. I like that topic. I will. I will.
And of,
Because
and of course, since you and I and some others here are, you know, in that over 55 bunch, it means a little different something
yeah,
in the same place.
yeah, yeah. Because yeah, you're right. A lot of people that we knew aren't here anymore in different ways, and whether they moved, people retire, move off, or whether they pass away or whatever it might be. And yeah, I had some, thoughts about loneliness. It was just one of those things that I thought about. Boredom was another one, because those two uh, kind of together is kind of that recipe for disaster almost, sometimes. So yeah, I will think about that, and that's a good subject.
Before I forget, since I'm talking about a little housekeeping, afterwards, can you email to me and even to Jean Richards on your email list the the website
Yes.
that Janice maintains for us?
Uh huh.
Because it may be somewhere in all my papers or whatever, but I'd rather get it fresh from you, whatever that site
Yeah,
is.
we had to change the domain because from the old deal, I believe it's zenfresno.org, but um, I will send that out, um, and I will also send it out on when I send out the because I will email everybody the link to this recording, and then I will put that information in that email
Okay.
as well.
Yeah, I mean, but in fact, just for me personally, if you can just send me that link to whatever Janice maintains,
Yes.
uh, the sooner that then I'll check it out for myself and pass it on to Gene because he was real interested in listening to the recording about anger
Mm.
from
Okay.
2 weeks
I'm
ago.
not sure if that's on there. I know, it's a slow process. They add. It's a small archive right now, but hopefully we'll build it up.
Yeah.
Yeah, really appreciate your talk this morning, and a couple things came to mind. Um, First of all, just the tie-in between different spiritual traditions. I think, that's one of the things in talking about Buddhism and Easter, that was good to, and just seeing all these parallels that, ultimately they're all kind of going for it's heading the same direction. And the other thing, for me, mindfulness is such a discipline. And for me, being present is a discipline, and it's just, trying to trying to be present all the time, or present as much as possible, is just yeah, constant discipline. And I go in and out of it, and that's okay. But I realize how much of it is, how well can I, stick to that mindfulness.
Something that triggers what Gary just said for me is open ended is like probably all of us are contending with, and generations younger than us, much more than us, is distraction. I know that I'm trying to be very careful about chasing down all sorts of minutiae that mean nothing to me, really. It's gotten a little bit easier when you realize as you get older, you've only got a certain amount of resources, energy-wise, time-wise, and what's the payoff if you find out this little piece of something you were curious about? Where does it take you? You know? And so I found that to be useful because in my, I'm basically retired from real estate. I have active licenses, but I'm not pursuing it. There'd be times when I would chase down statistical information about something. And as time goes on, I realize, what am I doing that for? I mean, I'm not putting it to any use. It's not really benefiting me. It's more monkey mind and idle curiosity. And so, but that, and then of course, news. I go to a couple of, news sites, and I almost know what's going to happen. I quickly scan 3 or 4 different things, and it's like reminding myself, okay, I don't need to know that. But I have to go there for just a second to be reminded that I don't need that.
Yeah,
Stuff.
exactly. Gary used the word discipline, and when I use, uh, when I use that word, I think of myself um, as a disciple. What am I? A disciple of whatever I'm trying to achieve, and if that's mindfulness, um, is what taking in bringing me closer to where I want to be, or is like as you John said, is it distracting me? Is it take me away? A great example, and you talked about the distractions is that sometimes when I'm researching something, I'll use YouTube and to see what other people have said about it, and it's so easy to say, "Oh, you're doing what you're doing," and you go, "Oh, well, that's interesting. Oh, well, I didn't know about this." And then here's a little news thing, and then all of a sudden I'm listening to brown music or brown sound, and it's just like, how did I get here? You think about uh, um, all the little distractions just takes you away from where what your original, I want to say goal, but where you wanted to be at the moment, and it just takes you right away from that. So yeah, it's just kind of being a disciple of that moment, disciple of mindfulness, which is kind of bring you back uh, to center. There's a book called The Zen of Recovery, and the guy talked about his recovering from, I don't know if it was alcoholism or drug abuse or whatever it was, but he put together this book and he talked about how his mind worked. Like his mind when he meditated was like you were in Grand Central Station and this big open echoey kind of chamber, and then all of a sudden he heard, now boarding, to New York. And all of a sudden he's on a train to New York. And he's on this train and he goes, I don't want to go to New York. So he gets off that train and back to Grand Central Station. And then the next one, and he's off on the next one. And that's exactly how our mind, he described it perfectly, I thought, is that we're so distracted by these little mind bubbles, these little bubbles that pop up, and we want to travel to wherever that takes us, and to be able to pop that bubble and to come back to the present moment, I think that's the practice. Come back to Grand Central Station, and then soon, with practice, we can sit there and we just watch the trains come and go without getting on the train.
Yeah, I think life can be so rich that way. That's what I'm learning is I don't have to go anywhere. I could just be sitting in this chair and like you're saying, okay, I'm going to eat a grape and I'm going to really taste that grape, no matter what it tastes like. I'm going to be here fully for that. And if I do that with every little thing I do, life is incredibly abundant, and
Yes.
I don't even have to get up out of my chair to have that happen.
Yeah. It is. It truly is. And then I think that's the beauty of our practice, the beauty of being present in the moment and just enjoying whatever it might be, um, or not. You know, sometimes things come up and we don't enjoy them, but we accept them, you know, and bring them in. It's so easy to put things off. Put the I'm a great putter offer. Put that off to her, you know, set aside time to do that later. And sometimes that works, and sometimes I'm just avoiding.
Couple of things, since this is like a free for all. Yeah, I have a son who's about, well, I have two sons, but the younger one's about 37, and I think he's in the entertainment business, hospitality in LA. And I think he recently said he got off Instagram, but then he might have slipped back on because of one thing. And the word that I've used for myself, etc., is, and if I talk to other people, and it's a Buddhist, you know, Buddhist origin is what I'm doing sustaining life.
Hmm.
So is whatever I'm going to be doing or pursuing, is that going to sustain? How is it sustaining my life? How is it, you know, sustainability? And so that's one thing. About going someplace, there was a famous poem. I thought I could find it easily. A Zen poem or whatever. Some famous master talked about Mount Liu, Liu. There's something about traveling there, coming back. What's the difference? It's like, you know, eloquent. I can't find it, but it's in me. You know, it's like, I mean, I've had to travel a lot because of the nature of my upbringing, but you know, this traveling and being right where you are. Yeah. I'll shut up for a moment here.
Thank you. Okay. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate everybody's time. Marty had to leave a little early, she said, but hope everybody have a nice holiday, however you might celebrate it, and enjoy the. We got a little sunshine right now, and enjoy that, and then whatever comes next.
Okay, we're going to do a closing.
Yes, do the refuges. I take refuge in Buddha. I take refuge in Dharma. I take refuge in Sangha. Udam Swaranam Gacchami. Dhaman Saranam Gacchami. Sanghang Saranam Gacchami. Dudiyampe Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Dudiyampe Dhamman Saranam Gacchami. Dudiyampe Sanghang Saranam Gacchami. Tatiyampe Buddham Saranam Gacchami. Tatiyampe Dharman Saranam Gacchami. Tatiyampe Sangham Saranam Gacchami.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
I look forward to that thing from you, Kevin, okay?
Yes,
Happy
I will
Easter.
mail that to you.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Take care.